This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The great David James, kind enough to hang out with us on a snowy Wednesday afternoon. DJ, how are you?
I'm good, but whenever someone says the great David James, I just assume I'm old.
Oh, that's not true.
Nobody ever says that for the 35-year-old.
Okay, what do you take more offense with, the great David James or the legend David James?
Oh, they both mean the same thing. That guy's old.
They both mean the same, yeah.
Yeah, it's a push. It's a push. It's a toss-up.
All right, so let me restart this. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Up-and-comer David James, kind enough to join us.
My best days are in front of me. He's a slow learner, but he's going to get there.
Hey,
man.
What can BYU consider a success tonight against Arizona? Like, what can a BYU fan see tonight, even if it's a loss, that they're like, okay, you know what, we're going to be all right?
Well, priority one is shock the world. Priority two, it's going to be on ESPN. A lot of people are going to see it. I think a lot of the people, if you're on the basketball selection committee, you've done this. You actually told me. I'm now telling you stuff that you've told me. And Chris Hill told me from when he was on the committee. Is that, people are responsible for 2 or 3 regional leagues, or they'll more likely have more info. Nonetheless, people do tend to watch big games. It's the nature of big games. This one's on ESPN for a reason. So I think they need to leave the selection committee with the impression, yeah, they lost Saunders, but that's still a really good basketball team. They need to pass the eyeball test into Houston and Tucson, and they can't go in thinking that. Priority one has to be thinking win the game. If you go out there thinking anything other than that, you're just going to trip yourself up. You're too far inside your head. You're overthinking it. You're going to mess it up. But, Brian Santiago, who isn't going to play in this game because he's out of eligibility, even by the NCAA's new relaxed standards. Yeah. If Brian was there and he was thinking, man, I just want the selection committee to walk away thinking we're still a good basketball team. If they go down there and lose a 1 or 2 possession game, like the game, it's like, okay, Arizona's better and they should be seeded a lot better. But this is still a very talented team that can win games in March. And I think if the selection committee looks at you and thinks, hey, they can win games in March, that's going to help you big time, obviously, when it comes to seeding. And I think the goal now is, can BYU get to the Sweet 16? And they need to stay out of the 8, 9, 7, 10 games, because now you're playing a 1 or a 2 seed. You just don't need to run into Arizona, Michigan, Houston, Duke, UConn, that batch of teams in the second round. You just don't need to do that. So I think that's it. That's the eyeball test. If they go there and they're down 15 at halftime and they lose by 21, that just gives people on the selection committee making tough choices the opportunity to say, oh, no, not these guys. Yeah, Arizona, holy cow,
When you look at this team, and obviously we need to take some time to see what they look like without Richie, but honestly, offense hasn't been much of an issue. Defensively, giving up point totals in the 80s and 90s. Yeah. And I know those numbers are going to be inflated just because there's extra possessions, which is how BYU plays. But still, that defense is what's been the big issue here.
We were just talking about this morning, wherever you get your podcast. Listen to Tim Lacombe on this, because it used to be you had to hold a team under 70 and then you won, right? That's what it was when Rick Majerus had it rolling at the U. That's what it was when Steve Cleveland had it rolling at BYU. That's what it was when Stu Morrill had it rolling at Utah State. More threes, faster pace of play. The game has been sped up. The shot clock over time has been shortened. So some of the increase in scoring is there. But I had a former college coach say, yeah, but most of the scoring is because kids can transfer every year, and coaches know they can't just I can't say exactly what this coach said. You got to really bleep and get into them. And then he dropped a really special combination that would have Lloyd jumping on top of the dump button. He said, what do you think Stu Morrill's practice was like at Utah State? What do you think Rick Majerus' practice was like at Utah? How do you think Roger Reed talked to his guys about defense at BYU? What do you think Dick Hunsaker was like at UVU? Hunsaker coach for Majerus, right? So it wasn't going to be exactly the same because there's only one Rick Majerus. But Hunsaker was going to be, he's going to demand defense loudly. And kids don't want to hear that for 4 months. They'll just pick up and transfer. There's too many temptations anyway. And so I think a lot of teams have gotten away from defense. Somehow Houston still plays like it's, 2010. They do somehow. But most teams don't. And I think BYU is right in that trend. I think we're seeing, whether it's the Utes, the Cougars, the Aggies, we're seeing a lot of games that are much more higher scoring. And I think if there's a silver lining, now they're losing Richie Saunders, who's, he's a pretty good defender and made plays, and partly because he had to. That's how he's going to get the ball when you're the third option, make the steal, go down, and get the layup, right? But I do think that all these guys fighting for time are going to come in with a ton of attitude. And they're not going to play big minutes. I expect they're not going to play big minutes. I expect that the time's going to be split up kind of the way it was in Colorado. And guys are going to be playing 15, 20 minutes until they sort out that somebody's better than somebody else. And so I think these guys are going to be really driven. So in two of the positions, there are going to be guys fighting for playing time who are going to go really hard. And in the brief moments that AJ subbed out and that Davis is subbed out and that Wright is subbed out, in those brief moments, whoever's in for them, I think will be really going hard. And the other three guys, it's a little tough because you're going to be asking to carry the offensive load, and you're going to ask them to play 35 minutes or more. So you got to be a little realistic. I mean, you can scream for the good old days all you want, but how realistic is that? I need you to score 35 points and play 35 minutes. And by the way, really gut it out over there at the defensive end of the floor. Seems like a big ask. But I think their defense might be a little better with some fresh faces in the lineup who are fighting for playing time.
So, and I want to be careful. I'm not by any means going after him, but and a lot of it's just the era in which we live in college basketball. But I'm looking at the last three games of Rob Wright. Houston, he plays 36 minutes and has 1 assist. Baylor, he plays 40 minutes and has 3 assists. Colorado, he plays 40 minutes and has 3 assists. So essentially he's got, nearly 120 minutes of basketball and has got 7 total assists. Is that, I mean, do you need to get a little bit more out of him as a point guard and not as a scorer, or with Richie out, you just need that scoring any way you can get it?
That is an excellent question. I think that they are having DeBonsa initiate the offense more and more. I like that concept, not just as a concept, but I like the way it's literally played out, because they are, whether they're cheating towards him in the zone, whether they're flat out trying to trap him, whether the help defender is jumping, thinking, I can leave this guy over here, but we can't let DeBonsa beat us, because that's what coach has been preaching for the last 3 days. AJ is such a focus that it feels like just as he crosses half court, he starts to pull the defense out of shape. And so Wright's now getting the ball in a position where it's going to be easier for him to break down a defense and score. So I'm okay with the shots going up. And now to your point, he still has to have his eyes open for, like, when can I throw Kate a lob? When is Davis open for a three with his feet set? And now that these guys are only playing 15 minutes, when do I get them an easy bucket? Because he could probably throw his body in there and contort himself and loft the ball up over a shot blocker high off the glass and get it to go. We've seen that happen, but we've also seen the shots get blocked. So if you have some guy who's new to the rotation and you have a chance to get him a bucket, do it. I don't care if you throw it ahead a little on a break when you think you can beat the one defender in a 2-on-1, or when you're driving to the hoop. I think he needs to look for that to get these guys who are going to either A, be playing when they haven't been, or B, going to play real minutes when they've been playing like 5, and now they're going to get 15 or 20. Get them some easy buckets. So it's almost I'd like to sit next to you possession by possession, Scotty, and going, I'm glad he went there. I'm like, oh, he needed to pass there. I think it's really a case-by-case basis. I think to your point, 7 in 120 minutes, you could probably use a little more. Now he's been on fire,
Yeah, so I mean, you look at that
call. If you're going to go 13 of 20 or 14 of 20 in a game, whatever he's done in these big games, I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's like, hey, don't take the ball out of the hand. The guy who's got it going and shooting 70%. But with 6 games going in the regular season, he's not going to shoot 70% 6 nights in a row. Or if he does, his draft stock goes way up, or his NIL number goes way up. BYU goes 4-2, 5-1, maybe 6-0. But I mean, he's on a tear. That's great. But you can't sustain this, and you need to get the other guys some easy hoops. But yeah, if those two start passing, I mean, that is what the defense wants. So they're gonna get a lot of FGAs. They need to.
Utah State in action tonight. If I can hopefully get up there and call a game tonight. Utah State and Boise State, the Broncos coming in. And, Boise blew that big lead against UNLV the other day. And they're hurting. They're in a bad spot. But when these two teams play, weird things happen. So I fully anticipate we'll have a 1-2 possession game going down the stretch in this one. But you and I talked on the Ultimate Aggie podcast about where
plug,
Utah
Scotty.
State
Done like
is.
A true professional. You
By
didn't
the way,
lead with that. You just eased it right in there. Good work.
That's available for you at KSLSports.com or search Ultimate Aggie Podcast on your podcasting platform of choice. All right, so you and I spent a lot of time talking about is it okay to run up the score, which Utah State did against Memphis. Jared Calhoun afterwards said, I'm not going to apologize for it. That's the way we are living now in college basketball, where every possession matters, and when we're dealing with metrics. I had Ken Pomeroy on yesterday, and I asked him essentially the same thing. I said, did Jared Calhoun do the right thing? And Ken's like, absolutely, yes, he did. He needs to do it. I'm not sure if those 4 points get you an extra spot in the seating, but I'm not saying they won't. So, yeah, pour it on.
Well, if Ken Pomeroy said that, then we have to go back and underline what Jared Calhoun said. It's a broken system. Because I think for the vast majority of us who played at any level, there is no difference in losing between 18 and 24 points. Once that thing gets over double digits, you're pretty much beaten. Now at the three-point shot, okay, once it's over 15, you're pretty much beaten. Like, they were beaten. They were just beaten. I don't hold these standards to these guys to the same standards as pros. There were 3 dunks in the final minute. I think the third one was clearly the most egregious because you literally could dribble out the clock on 22. So, but hey, if that's the system, then you better play by the rules of the system. But it's like that really legitimately doesn't tell me anything. If you tell me, it's back to what you asked at the top about BYU and Arizona. If you tell me BYU plays Arizona right to the end, and Arizona hits a shot, or BYU misses a shot, if DeBonta goes for 40 and keeps them in the game, and then has some 20-footer go back because they're in front of the rim and then out, that tells me one thing about BYU. If they lose by 12, it tells me a different thing. But if they lose by 20 or 30, I don't care. At that point, you're blown out. So I don't get why that would be valuable in a system, and that doesn't make sense to me.
What do we got to do to bring Grand Canyon back down to earth? Because I'm not liking them puffing their chest outs with wins against Utah State and then the Aztecs last night.
You have to beat them, period. End of story. Furthermore, if I were on this Aggie team, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, I know.
I would still be mad about cell phones on a piece of paper produced by the school, put on chairs. Come on, man. I mean, I can sit here and talk about and argue about whether the last 3 dunks or 2 of the 3 or 1 of the 3. We could argue about that all day long. You can't argue about cell phone numbers on a chair. We all know that's wrong. You don't put a 20-year-old cell phone out for 8,000 people to harass them. What are you doing? That should irritate everybody. It's a team that can already defend and can already run. And the crowd was crazy. The spectrum needs to be crazy. And Utah State needs to put it on them. And now that we know, I mean, once Ken Pom has spoken,
it's gospel.
Beat him by 30.
Yeah.
I mean, don't just beat him, humiliate him. And then I wouldn't even, coach to coach, I wouldn't even say anything. But AD to AD, I'd go, by the way, that piece of paper was total BS. Thanks for never freaking apologizing, you losers. No, you can't burn bridges in college athletics. You two could end up 10 schools down the line. Don't do it. But, man, that was clearly across the line. But you can't do a whole segment on that. There's nothing to say. You shouldn't have done that, Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the only thing you can do is beat them. And the only thing you can do beyond that is then beat them bad. I don't know what else there is.
I was kind of counting on San Diego State getting the win against them and then setting up for a fun one coming up next week with Utah State and San Diego State for the top spot on the line.
I did see a thing on social media that the Grand Canyon beating San Diego State, that there is a window where Utah State just wins out, and this is a one-bid league.
Yeah.
And they were like, that will be hilarious given the Mountain West Pac-12 split coming up. I said, except Grand Canyon just cost himself money and didn't cost San Diego State much money.
Yeah.
Now, San Diego State wants to go to the tournament, and Dutcher's, coming to the end of a great career, and he wants to go to the tournament, and, but Grand Canyon's the one who won't be cashing checks for the next 6 years. But, I mean, what can you do? You got to go win the game. You can't be out there throwing games so you can make money in 4 years. That's stupid, so whatever.
All right. By the way, David James, hear him every morning, 6 to 10, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Yes.
I should say, though, although if you were tanking at the NBA level, that would be different.
That's where I was transitioning to right now.
I would totally, except the fact that the commissioner may, fine you back to the Stone Age. I would suggest that those 6-7 teams that are tanking just keep tanking.
So I have a theory as to, I had a theory last week. Now it's starting to become public knowledge of why the commissioner was a little grumpy and threw a $500,000 fine at the Jazz when teams have been doing this forever. It's that the Jazz did it differently than everybody else and pulled guys in the fourth quarter. That messes with prop bets, and that makes a couple of online companies very, very grumpy that might be spending a lot of money with the NBA.
Right, and whether they spend money directly with the NBA or whether they spend money with the broadcast so that the broadcast can pay higher rights fees is a very fine distinction that isn't worth the time of arguing over, because the commissioner knows exactly how the money pipeline works.
Yep.
So, that's a distinction we don't need to spend any time on. I can totally see them voicing their concerns, and I can see how they set a line based on what they think, whereas there's a small select group of fans, in this case Jazz fans, who realize guys aren't going to play in the fourth quarter long before the rest of the country is onto it, because they're just not paying that close attention. And honestly, I don't even think the commissioner is paying that close attention to the tanking, because if he were, he would have just gone ahead and find Sacramento, and he would have found Washington at the same time. It's clearly obvious what they're doing, but commissioners have known for 40 years that NBA teams are tanking, going back to when Hakeem Olajuwon was at Houston, right? So, yeah, it was something specific. And to me, it's that, and it's Sam Presti and Oklahoma City want the pick.
Mm-hmm.
And they're complaining. And those two things, two companies and that team burning up his phone lines, and he just had enough of it. And as Locke said, he knew he had to do a press conference saying his address. It's a serious issue. Yeah, for 40 years while the league has blossomed. That's an issue. Tanking didn't just start, and it hasn't ruined the NBA. In 40 years, the league has grown by leaps and bounds. And that's because I think Mark Cuban got it right.
Yeah.
And he tied it into something I've always believed. Pro sports sells hope. There are really good football and baseball and basketball teams that come and go, and hockey too, that come and go, and they don't win it all. And we still revere them. It was a lot of good times, a lot of playoff wins. They didn't get to hoist the trophy. It's the Jazz here. It's the Bills 4 in a row. The Broncos now have multiple Super Bowls. But there was a time when the Broncos went to the Super Bowl and lost and never won it. But they were wildly popular. They were wildly popular for 20 years before they won a Super Bowl, 25 years before they won a Super Bowl. You don't have to win it all. They're selling hope. And the lottery and the thought that we could get one of the top 5 players in the NBA, that's the hope. I mean, I think the Jazz have gotten a lot of good players, and I don't see a top 5 player in the NBA on the roster. Maybe one of the young guys grows into that. Maybe Bailey grows into it. Keontae's already taken a leap that a lot of us did not expect. Maybe he'll take another leap a lot of us don't expect. I think Bailey has more of the size, so I think him, and maybe somebody they get here, and maybe they trade one or two of these guys to get that guy in another year or 2 or 3. I mean, who's to say? They've done a good job of building, but you really need that hope of having one of the top 5 players in the NBA if you're going to win a championship.
Well, and honestly, too, there's now an end date to the tanking because of the Jaren Jackson trade. So that there's an expiration date here, and it will be wherever that last game of the season ends. And so if you're able to parlay a top 3 pick with Jaren Jackson, hey, we're not tanking anymore. It's worked, and the Jazz are off.
The tanking is all done, and the only question is when they go off, how much powder are they going to have in the saddlebags, I guess, how much firepower, how many good players are they going to have, how many top 150 players do you have, because that's what you need in rotation, how many top 50 players do you have, because those guys are all going to be in your starting lineup, and then how many top 5, 10, or 20 players do you have, And so, the thought that they could get one of those guys, and the thing is that this draft, again, is supposed to be so good. Yes, you want one of the top 3 picks, but now people are like, the 4th and 5th player look like they're going to be really good. So, who's to say? But hold on to the pick. You can't get one of the top players if you have to give the pick away.
The one Olympic event that you normally don't care about, but you enjoy more than you probably should in the Olympics.
I've never watched less Olympics in my life. I grew up in a massive Olympic family. So we have to watch so much sports. Like tonight, people will be watching Olympics. It's getting late, and I'm like, I don't have time to watch tonight. I got to watch BYU, Utah, and Utah State, 3 games in the course of 4 hours. So I don't watch that much. I mean, it's the men's hockey 1, women's hockey 2. I would tell you that I like the short track, and now that the long track has gotten into it, the original speed skating, when they put multiple people on the ice. When the long track, they've got one event now where it's the, what do they call it? It's not the combined stars. It's something like group stars. So I can't remember. I got the lingo wrong. But they say when they put them all on the ice together, because then it's like watching a track meet.
Yeah.
Well, I watch track, So I would say that's the thing of the things that I never watch. I only watch in the Olympics. It's that. I mean, hockey isn't that far out of the, mainstream. As a matter of fact, USA-Sweden, 9 minutes ago, first period, still scoreless, quarterfinals. It's on right now. But there's no college basketball I have to watch right now.
Yeah.
So, come on.
Yeah, I kind of like that speed skating with a lot of people out there because, you're a kid in the 80s when you'd have that Saturday night roller derby league on, and people were just wrecking people. Like, it's got a little bit of feel of that.
The only problem with roller derby is that people thought it had to be tricked up and pro wrestling to be entertaining. I think if you just found a bunch of guys who played college football or even high school football, played college football, and were really good athletes, but they weren't good enough to play in the NBA, and then you just put that and you put prize money out there, and those were the rules, I think that'd be entertaining. It's got speed, it's got contact, and it has some teamwork. Like, doesn't that sound like something people would watch?
I watched it, even with the wrestling angle to it. See,
yeah. There's only a bazillion arenas with dates to fill. Like, I don't know if you need 5, 10, or 15,000 or what you're going to draw, but those arenas are all over the country.
Things you didn't think you'd talk about today. Roller derby had to be on that bingo board list.
I didn't know we were going to go to speed skating either.
Yeah. There you go.
Up there, this year there's been one short track race and one moguls freestyle where the winner crossed the finish line backwards.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
I didn't watch either one of those things live, but I saw them on social. I saw the clips on social media. That's amazing. Yeah. That's why we watch sports, to watch super talented athletes do things we can't do. Number one, I can't ski down that hill with no moguls, let alone with moguls. Off the jumps, but then to catch an edge and be spun around, but have the balance and the body control to stay on my skis and cross line backwards and still win, epic. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Now, I don't want to sit around and watch all night to see 30 seconds, but yeah, there you go.
Appreciate it, DJ. You're the best.
Okay, I'll talk to you. See ya.
There he is. The great David James, the legend David James, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.